get knocked off. Like literally, this rock somehow knocked me over and then stopped me from falling off the edge.
Welcome, Shay.
Good evening, Evan. How you doing?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, really well. Thanks for having us on today.
Yeah, most welcome. It's a privilege.
I guess for me, what was happening at the time before my close shave, I was an industrial abseiler and a boilermaker doing sort of jobs where I was basically using ropes as a way to access tricky to reach places to do sort of tradesman type work. I was living in the Blue Mountains in Mount Victoria with my partner at the time. Yeah, climbing a bunch and sort of trying to make the most of life.
Cool, cool. And what led up to the accident?
Yeah, so my accident, we were doing a job for national parks in Wentworth Falls. We were basically abseiling down the side of a cliff and taking care of some loose rock. There'd been some rather large chunks that had been coming off above the national park walking track. And our job was basically to come in above them and try and safely remove them from above using things like expanding grout and crowbars and, minimizing the risk of anyone getting below.
Give us details around it, or whatever you're comfortable with.
I don't know how much you're familiar with industrial abseiling, but basically we use like a twin rope system to maneuver ourselves into place. So it was a pretty fun job, really. We were getting to abseil in the national park down, a bunch of cliffs that not many people get to play around on. Beautiful spot if you've ever been to Wentworth Falls. It's a really spectacular view, and we got to hang out there and trundle great big rocks off the cliff basically for a few weeks. It was pretty fun.
Cool, cool. Tell us more about abseiling, like your industrial abseiling.
So yeah, industrial abseiling, it's a pretty interesting trade. I discovered it after I got into rock climbing. It's quite common for people in the climbing world to sort of fall into the trade because you sort of have a natural affinity for ropes, and working at heights don't bother you quite as much as most people, and you can make great money doing it. So a good chunk of the people I was working with were rock climbers. It gets you to some really unique places in the behind the scenes of the world, and doing some really interesting things whilst getting to play with lots of ropes and pulleys and carabiners and all that sort of palaver.
Cool, cool. Tell me more.
Tell you more. What do you want to know?
Idea. Ins and outs of rock climbing. That's
Yeah, rock climbing is a pretty interesting hobby. I think anyway. For me, it's been something that's been pivotal in my life. I wouldn't be where I am without it. It gives you a great sense of I think purpose and drive, and it's almost like it can be almost like a video game in that it gives you lots of levels to sort of strive towards. There's always something harder, and always little things you can reset and try again. You can fall off something as many times as you want with a rope and just keep working the same problem until you figure it out.
You'd get to a high level of fitness, wouldn't you?
It definitely gives you a certain level of fitness. Sort of inadvertently, you find yourself walking into ridiculously far away crags and doing all sorts of things just to try to increase your power to weight ratio and get a bit stronger.
Magnificent views, I imagine.
Fantastic views. It gets you to some really incredible places, both in Australia and internationally. Some of my favorite trips have been going overseas to places like Thailand or
awesome.
Italy. It gives you a real sense of purpose to get to a really obscure place. Is I think one of my favorite things about it. You can travel the world and hang out in these funny little towns or beachside areas that you'd have no reason to go to otherwise, and really get to know a place.
Would you like to talk about some of those overseas adventures as well?
Oh, I spent a little bit of time in a place that a lot of climbers will know called Tonsai in Railay in Thailand. It's a beautiful limestone climbing area. Just a huge volume of climbing over there, and it's all sort of based out of this one little beach.
Sorry, pause there for a minute. My chair just did funny things. Sorry, I had a fall.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
But yeah, it's a great little climbing destination over there. There's fantastic 100, 200 meter high limestone cliffs that are incredibly featured. You can pretty much climb right off the beach all the way up these huge cliffs whilst looking out at tropical islands and down at the bars below you. It's like an absolute dream place to go.
Tropics good. Yeah, tell us more. It's really interesting. I'm getting the pictures while you're talking.
Yeah. Have you spent much time in Thailand yourself, or?
I haven't. I was up in the Torres Straits for a long time, but there's no climbing there.
No, the Torres Straits is beautiful though. What were you doing up there?
Diving.
Like scuba diving.
Yeah, the Coral Sea. Yeah, diving for free diving for crayfish.
Oh right. How long did you spend up there?
Years.
That's fantastic.
That was a good life. One of the highlights of my life. Really. Full of. What's that gone?
What led you to get up to the north there to go crayfish diving?
Good question. I ran away from home at an early age and got adopted by an elder
Cool.
islander, and eventually we got the boat and we went up there, and it's full of close shaves in the ocean. I wrote a book about it, but
You wrote a book about it, you say?
I wrote a book about it. Yeah, well, I couldn't fit everything in the first volume. There's interesting things happen.
Oh, what was the book called?
It's called it's called the Evans Torres Strait Close Shaves
Yeah,
and
right.
Gems.
You're
Yeah.
really going with this close shaves theme.
I started off. What happened? I forget what triggered it, but I started off writing the book. I'd had it in drafts for years, and then when I said, "Oh, look, I've got to do this," so I started doing it, and then I realised a whole lot of other close shaves. There's several other volumes coming because I worked on farms and in the outback and places with this relative danger. So, and then when I thought of doing the podcast, I said, "Well, why not make it about close shaves and listen to other people's?" And that's why you're here.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Great idea.
it's a theme. And also, I think looking back, I think every time you come close to a death experience, you have a shift of consciousness. It sharpens you. I think
Certainly. Certainly, there's a lot to be learnt there.
you gain from it. I think if I mean, once you overcome the trauma, if it's a traumatic situation, and even
Yeah,
that, there's a gain there. Unless you drown in the trauma, I think everything's a gain if you turn it that way.
yeah, if you
But
can pull through that, it can be absolutely a
if you can
pivotal.
pull through it, yeah, and it's hard. It's not. I'm not saying it's easy at all, but we're here for you. I'll tell you my story another time. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, but it's
Keep going.
nice to have a bit of back and forth.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Um,
Yeah, I think we were
I'll
talking
dig
about
up. I'll
Thailand.
just make a note of that. I'll dig up.
Pick up that book.
I'll get that book here.
Thank you.
It's crazy, but anyway, it happened.
Yeah, I think I was telling you about climbing in Thailand.
Yeah, Ireland. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so I've probably been there 3 or 4 times now with different friends and partners over the years, and it's just a wild place where you can be, hanging out and drinking beers, watching the sunset of an evening, and climbing. There's people even go base jumping there off the main wall there.
Yeah, tropics are good. And
Um,
what the wind's good for base jumping.
they can be.
Yeah.
Obviously, like anywhere, you get bad weather. I remember one day I actually climbed up to the top of one of the cliffs with a base jumper. We walked around the back. We wanted to try to film him jumping off the top, and he said, "No, I don't have
Mm.
time to let you set up your cameras. I'm going to jump right now." And he jumped, got to the ground, and a few seconds later, a big thing of wind blew through that would have just made it extraordinarily dangerous for him to jump.
So he survived.
He survived, but he made the right call. It was right then or not at all.
You know, the crocodile man, gentleman that used to play
Oh,
with crocodiles.
Steve Irwin?
Steve Irwin. I spent a good portion of my life before the islands at Port Douglas. And where Steve Irwin died, my adopted dad said never go there. Because I used
Yeah,
to
right.
fang around. He said never go there. The islanders know the ocean like the back of their hands. He said
Oh,
never go there because when you're a metre above the big stingrays and they
Mhm.
see your shadow, they aim for your heart.
Oh my God.
And that's exactly what happened to Steve. It was spooky when I found that out. Because that was
Wow.
same spot Paul told me not to never go there. He said, never go there because you'll die.
God, it's incredible how much stuff people can know when they're absolute masters of one thing.
Had Paul not died years earlier, he would have probably been approached by the film crew and he would have been an advisor.
Yeah,
But
wow.
he'd already gone by then, so we could have saved Steve Irwin's life. But people don't know. It looks like a peaceful thing, but they're right under the sand,
Mhm.
and then when they see your shadow. I think like sharks have got this thing called the Ampelo lorenzini. They've got these electrical things on the side of their body, and they can smell blood upstream, and they know you're there. It's you have interesting experiences with them. Most sharks are fine, but there's a few breeds that you don't go near. You leave.
Yeah, I'd definitely back you on that. I've spent a bit of time diving off Lady Musgrave in Northwest Island off
Right,
Gladstone
right.
there, and yeah, every now and then you do see some spooky sharks there.
Did you have some encounters with
Not me personally. I had some friends that came face to face with a great white just off the reef edge there.
it? Ooh,
A
they're trouble.
4 meter great white came right up to them, and I've had a few other friends get chased out the water by bull sharks in a bit of a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, I've had some close ones. You'll read some of them in the book. There was a guy in Sydney Harbour got taken by a great white, and he poked it in the eyes and gills and spat him out. I think he's a footballer. I read about it somewhere, and he was lucky.
But so he survived. He just
He,
got a bit
he
munched.
survived. He got a bit scratched up, but he was
You're
good.
not thinking about the Navy SEAL clearance diver Paul de Gelder.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit similar to his story.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
He was a bomb clearance diver basically for the Navy doing training exercises in Sydney Harbour,
Mm-hmm.
and he got his arm and his leg taken by a bull shark in the harbour, and I think he was probably 8 years ago I read his book, but I'm pretty sure he said something similar.
Really? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The trick with sharks is you always carry something sharp. They seem to smell it, and if they don't, you poke them, and they go, "Geez, he's got teeth too." And then they go. My worst adventure with the shark wasn't the big ones. The big ones are sort of okay. It was one that was 2 foot long.
Oh dear, what?
What's that? 30 centimeters. I used to dry coral cod.
Okay.
Dry it on the mast because there's no flies out at sea, and it's really nice. You grate it over fresh fish. It's awesome flavour, and so I caught this little coral cod, and it was going to be really quality. This little black shark decided he wanted it. It threw a tantrum around me. It
Dear.
kept charging me and charging me, and this I was on the reef, standing on the reef, was knee deep. And by the time we had our discussion, it was waist deep, and the tide was coming up, and then the tide swung around, and my dinghy was out in the deep blue. And I
No.
did a bit of quick calculation. I said, if I don't give it to him, he's going to cut me. And if he cuts me, the other's coming. Once they smell blood,
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah,
come.
for sure.
So
They get just.
yeah. And he took it, and I'm sure he gave me the shark middle finger on the, but he took it and left, And then I said, that's it for today. That's it. Anyway. Keep telling me about your exotic places.
Oh, you're reminding me of another trip I went on actually, a scuba trip off the. Do you know where the Great Detached Reef is?
Uh,
So it's right off the top of Thursday Island, or pretty much
like it.
directly
I
east,
probably
about 300 k's off Thursday Island there.
It'll have an island name. I'll know by its island name. So it's to the east of Thursday Island.
Yeah, further off the
Yeah,
east
yeah.
coast.
Okay. Yep.
And it's
I've
not so
been
much an
there. I've
island
been
as
there.
a big reef just in the middle of absolutely nowhere up there.
Yep. There's lots of those. Yeah. Tell me about it.
So a couple of years ago, I was up there with a dive club on this 50-year-old fishing boat that's converted into a dive vessel
Yep.
with about the most stereotypical sort of skipper you could imagine.
Yeah.
Uh,
A
the guy that's
local, was
been
it?
no, the sort of guy that's been out on the boat, living on his boat for the last 20 years, knows the reef like no one
Yeah.
else. And we
Yep.
had an absolutely amazing time diving with him out there on these, 200-meter deep walls that just drop off into nothing. These
Yep.
spots where you just, yeah, no, hardly anyone ever gets to go diving there. There's only a short window that he dives there every year because it's
Yep.
weather-wise, and it was just absolutely amazing. We didn't see another boat for 7 days,
Yep.
and out there you get sharks that have basically never seen people or scuba divers before. And you just the behavior you see from these sharks that have never encountered people is just completely different to sharks you see elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you've experienced it
So
yourself.
yeah, they worry about us getting them.
Yeah,
Yeah. They actually don't know what we are, and they go, "I'm out of here."
they get a
Depends
bit,
on.
they get really curious and just start coming right up
Yeah.
to you. Or yeah,
Yeah.
very different
Yeah.
behaviors.
They come and check you out. So you were diving with them.
We were diving with them, yeah, out there, sort of just incredible 35-meter visibility, and
Yeah.
he'd drop you right on these little walls, in these spots that you're just like, how did you even
Yeah.
find this place to anchor your boat? He'd drop his
Yeah.
anchor sort of right there on this little tiny patch of sand next to a 200-meter
Yeah.
deep wall. Just incredible boat skills.
Torres Strait's got really clear waters. That's what I like about it. I don't like
Yeah,
diving in New South Wales waters. They're murky, and you don't see what's coming.
yeah, indeed. But I think the most
Yeah.
exciting part of that trip would have had to been on the way back home. We had been noticing a little bit of soot around the boat the whole time. And we're like, that's a bit weird. Final night, everyone's sort of relaxing, and I'd been chatting to the captain that night, and he goes, "Oh, this is my favorite bit of the trip. Diving out here can be pretty risky, and everyone's back on the boat. I can finally relax. Nothing's gone wrong." About half an hour later, my friend comes up to me and says, "Can you smell smoke?"
Oh, what was that? What was it?
So we start looking around the boat, trying to figure out where it's coming from, and we look up at the chimney, and you can see just a small flicker of a flame coming out the top of the boat's smokestack.
What was that? The engine was going funny.
Turns out there'd been a small crack in the smokestack, and it had been filling up with soot. It needed a clean as well.
Oh,
And old timber boat, all the timber around the chimney's extraordinarily dry and hot, and the
so you
inside of
just
the inside of the wall had actually caught fire.
had caught fire. Shit.
So the walls of this boat, everyone's half cut, just to paint you a picture, because
Mm.
we were having celebratory beers. Everyone's five to 10 beers deep.
Mm.
We're 150 kilometers offshore. No one answers our pan call on the radio because we're too far away, and
Oh, shit.
we're trying to put this fire out on the inside of the walls of the boat.
Oh, you got plenty of water.
Well, that was the worst bit. Someone had put a dive tub, filled it with water for rinsing gear, right in
Yeah.
front of the main fire hydrant. for the boat's emergency water system.
So he sounded like a careless local. There's a few of those up there.
I think it was a mix of things, but we
Yeah,
ended up
yeah.
going through every single fire extinguisher on the boat trying to put this thing out. People are passing up buckets of water. We're getting everyone's getting ready to emergency evacuate. Life jackets on. The flammables locker caught fire where we kept all the large LPG bottles.
That's a paradox, isn't it? A fire on a boat.
So that was pretty exciting. Me and another guy ended up grabbing the two 45-liter LPG bottles and dragging
Yeah,
them down the boat to the other end away from the fire with towels,
yeah.
and eventually we managed to get the thing under control.
Ah, cool, cool. Did you have a dinghy or a lifeboat or anything?
We did have a lifeboat, but you never launch them till it's
Yeah.
the very
So
end.
you saved the boat. That's
We
cool.
saved the
That's
boat,
cool.
but geez, everyone was pretty nervous after that one.
I reckon. I reckon. Yeah. So that was the eastern side of Thursday Island.
Yeah.
I know it. I know it. I nearly died there.
Geez, so you both had some close calls out there.
What happened there? The bottom's like this. It's
Yep.
not like this, and I just kept seeing crayfish everywhere. And I said, "Oh man, I'm at a bonanza here." I went off diving like freelancing. The other guys would get drunk, and I'd go make some pocket money
No,
and sell them for myself.
fantastic.
And so I hired a young lad to row for me, and there I was, and I thought I was going down the flat, but I was actually going down this way. Happened more than once actually.
So you're just getting deeper and deeper by the sounds
I
of
was
it,
getting deeper and deeper and deeper,
and you weren't realizing.
I didn't realize it. And there's an inner thing that happens, like your brain says, okay, it's time to surface. So I was getting a bit greedy, and I was looking at the crayfish. I went a bit more and a bit more. I said, oh, I better surface. It's not far up. When I reached the surface, it wasn't there. And then I went again, and it wasn't there. And I went, oh shit! And when I surfaced, I almost blacked out. I think I did a bit.
Yeah, right. So did you get like a bit disorientated, or you just were
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
deeper than
yes.
you thought?
Well, it was both. When you hold your breath for too long, you can get disoriented underwater. It's happened a couple of times. Yeah, when you're young, you're stupid. You do silly things.
So would you say that was like a shallow water blackout?
Yeah, yeah. I think at some stage I blacked out, then I surfaced and started breathing again.
Yeah, they're pretty scary, those things.
Yeah, it was very scary. I was a swimmer as a young lad, so I used to do competitive swimming. So I think that saved me because water's just water.
Yeah. Did they talk about partial pressures back in those days?
No, we were just primitive. I didn't have any, nothing, no gear. Even eventually, I bought some flippers and snorkel.
Yeah, right. Do you know what the theory behind them is?
What's that?
Partial pressures.
No, tell me.
So when you're at depth, you're under multiple atmospheres. Every 10 meters is an atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah.
So your body can use up to the oxygen in your system down to about 4%, and then that's when you start
Yep.
blacking out. But if you're under, say,
Right.
2 or 3 pressures, your body can use down to 4%, but the pressure makes it so you're using more than 4% when you come back up. So
Yep.
so you can at that higher partial pressure use more oxygen, and then when you come up, there's less in your there's an artificially lower amount because you're back to regular atmospheric pressure.
Sort of like the bends, a version of the bends. Or something
Kind
like
of.
that.
Your body basically is able to extract more oxygen than it normally would when it's under pressure.
Right.
And then
Okay,
when you come
gotcha.
back to regular pressure, your oxygen level in your blood drops right off because it's not as high anymore, and you black out.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
what happens to people when they push themselves too hard or when they're too deep. They basically come to
That's
the
what.
surface and all of a sudden they've got no oxygen
Yeah.
left in their blood because the pressure
Yeah.
drops. They just pass
Yeah,
out.
that's what happened. I was kicking so hard when I surfed. I was kicking so hard that I was up to my waist out of
Oh
the water.
wow. You
I
coming
had to
up,
flip.
rocketing up.
I was rocketing up, yeah,
Jeez.
and then my eyes were turning upwards. I remember, and then my breath started happening again.
Oh, that's so lucky you didn't go face down or anything.
Well, the young guy thought I died because I was under there for 5 minutes or something.
Oh wow.
He thought, what do I do? Poor little bugger. He thought, do I leave him here or do I go and tell someone? And then when I came up, he said, I thought you're dead. It was interesting. Yeah, I used to take risks.
Did you get the crayfish?
I caught a few, but after that I went home. I said, that'll do for today. Chasing money. Yeah, no, it's not. I got some early lessons. I thought, you're chasing money and then you put yourself at risk and then you think, well, fuck the money. I'll reduce the risk.
Yeah. Young men love their money, hey? We all come back for more.
Oh, well, that's life. That's life.
Yeah.
Especially when you're out in adventurous situations, it's a lot of fun.
Sure.
That's
It
why they
is
send
indeed.
young guys to war because they got no brains. they like risk, but that's just normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but keep telling me. And What about the European Alps? Did you go to the Alps in Europe?
I did a little bit. I went to the Dolomites and a little bit in Greece. The Dolomites is just spectacular. Just these huge, big sort of granite cliffs, and
Awesome.
if you get there
Awesome.
at the right time of year, it can be just dusted with snow, and you can do these big sort of semi-alpine routes.
Nice. Nice.
Um, yeah, it's just a beautiful, magnificent place, especially coming from Australia where we don't have any proper mountains.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
The
it's
little lumps of rock.
I think everything's a bit inspiring to us. Other people, the people from
Yeah.
Europe might not agree with me. And then there's another place in Greece called Meteora that I think's pretty unique amongst climbing places in the world.
Yeah.
It's these monoliths that are made of conglomerate rock. So they're all these little individual pebbles that are sort of held together with an aggregate,
Right, right. Is that
and
crumbly?
it, it's usually pretty stable. And
Yeah.
they've got a lot of monasteries on top. A lot of them are sort of got these old ancient monasteries from back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're familiar with your James Bond, there was actually a movie that featured it back in the day, many years ago.
Monastery on top of a hill, on top of a mountain,
Yeah, yeah.
on the side of a mountain.
Side of these big monoliths, they go from like 200 to 400 meters high.
Okay. Yep,
These
yep,
huge
yep.
things, but it's such a unique place to climb because you're just holding on to these little pebbles that are sort of sticking out of the wall.
How does your sort of climbing differ from the old traditional mountaineering stuff? You know, where you put a thing in the wall and then you
Yeah,
put a
so
rope over.
modern climbing, I guess, is it all sort of steeped in tradition and harks back to all that sort of stuff.
Right,
So
right.
we most of the time modern sport climbing, what we're doing, we're using ropes and something called quick draws, and a quick draw is basically
Yeah.
two carabiners with a little bit of webbing in between.
Right, right.
And you'll clip one end to your rope and you'll clip the other end to a pre-drilled bolt in the wall. So someone's drilled and glued, fixing every 2 or 3 meters normally, and they're kind of like your safety points.
Right, right. Do you put them in, or is that the pioneering? The people who went
So
before put them in there.
usually there'll be like a first ascensionist, someone that's sort of developed an area that's
Right. Okay.
gone and done that, and
Cool.
there's bits of etiquette, different etiquette around the world as to how you do it, but
Right, right.
it's sort of becoming more and more unified as we get more
Cool.
mature as a sport.
Cool. I've never done climbing or base jumping. Never got around to it. I wanted to parachute, then I had an injury, and I didn't think it would have been a good idea if I landed
Well,
wrong. So
you could always try paragliding. That's a good sport. There's plenty of people that
yeah,
still do that into their golden years.
yeah. There's a lot of it goes on down the south coast. The
Yeah,
wind must be good. It's near that. It's on top of a high point.
can
It's north of Wollongong.
you think it's Stanwell Tops?
That's the one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
the one.
it's a
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
spot to fly
yeah,
there.
yeah, 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 yeah. Never done that either.
You should get
I,
out and get on it. It's a
uh,
magnificent sport.
I might well, I might well do it too.
Go,
We'll see. I've got a whole lot of injuries, and I'm worried about landing funny.
that's reasonable. But yeah,
Yeah,
coastal flying is pretty nice.
yeah. Cool, cool. So keep going. It's your story.
Yeah, where do you want to keep talking about the climbing stuff, or do you want to get into the sort of the more meat
Where,
and vegetables of the accidenty sort of stuff?
wherever you want to go with it, it's cool. It's cool. I'm interested about that as well. But
Yeah, I guess we're gonna get on with the so we were doing this job for national parks,
yep,
stabilizing this
yeah,
cliff
yep,
face, knocking off these
yep,
huge blocks.
mm,
We sort of started having a bit of back and forth with the engineer in charge.
yep,
Uh, they repeatedly tried to sign off on the job as stable, and the rope techs out there had quite a bit of pushback. We sort of repeatedly said we didn't think it was stable. We could stick
mm,
crowbars into these little cracks
mm,
that kept forming and wiggle what
yep,
we
yep,
thought were about 2 ton blocks.
yep, yep.
And eventually, after a few weeks of sort of back and forth, the job getting shut down, the job getting reopened,
Mm,
um, eventually the engineer basically said, "No, pack it up, get out of there. Like, the job's done. It's stable now." And so we followed their instructions, and we were clearing our ropes away and clearing the debris from underneath, so the
mm,
walking track could be
mm,
reopened, that it was directly above.
yep, yep.
Basically, next thing I remember, I'm the definition of a rock in a hard place. I am lying on the ground, looking out into the void. Basically, we were on a mid a vegetation band in the middle of the cliff, is where this track ran. So the vegetation band's about 80 meters up, and there's about 80 meters of cliff above us. And my legs are basically pinned under a rock. I'm leaning back out into the void, staring out over an 80 meter drop,
Upside down.
just leaning back over like a
Oh,
sloping
right. Okay,
hill.
okay, okay.
And legs are pinned under an armchair-sized boulder.
Shit. How
And that
long are you there for?
and that was sort of the first thing I remember. Just become unconscious to. I must have been knocked over or something, and luckily didn't get knocked off. Like literally, this rock somehow knocked me over and then stopped me from falling off the edge. Just,
Oh,
just
oh, that's a paradox. And
absolute paradox. And I think that the first thing I sort of remember there is just screaming for help, just repeatedly screaming help, help, help. And I don't know if you've ever heard the like heard someone's voice when they're just broken. There's like a certain noise, and there's two
yeah,
times that day in someone's voice when they're just breaking, and it was me in that moment just screaming for help. Luckily, there was three of us on site. The third guy, Tomer, he was able to get down and help lever this rock off me and pull me off to the side. And then, unfortunately, the third guy, he was completely gone. He was under a huge chunk. I'm 90% sure he was instantly gone. But just hearing my good buddy Tom just screaming, "Dave, Dave, don't die on me, Dave!" Just that same broken voice that you just never forget that sort of tone in someone. It's just absolute devastation and fear and all those sorts of things. Sort of thing that just you never forget that.
I can relate. Similar things. Yeah. And what happened? Did they bring in the Yambos and stuff?
Yeah, so I was fairly conscious for a little while there. I was pretty lucky. Tomo basically grabbed an old piece of fencing, was able to lever this rock off, and my legs were broken in four spots, so I had to pull them out because they were. I couldn't understand why they weren't moving. I had to pick them up and move them, and move them off to the side, and then Tom helped drag me off to the side. I called for the emergency services to try to get some help in, whilst he was sort of seeing if there was anything he could do for our colleague, our friend Dave. Yeah, I had a moment of panic there. I briefly accidentally hung up on the emergency services. I've never been so impressed with how quickly they called me back. It's probably 2 or 3 seconds, but in that time I panicked like nothing else.
I reckon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was able to sort of chat to them for a bit. Um, and that's where I sort of black out. I don't really remember too much more after that. I
Mm.
wake up over a week later in hospital.
Is it hard reliving it?
It can be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about it a lot over the years with lawyers and investigators, and yeah, as an amputee from my injuries, I ended up losing my left leg below the knee. Being an amputee is an interesting one. It's its own kind of therapy, I think, especially if you don't hide it. You get asked a lot of questions, and just you have to confront what you went through quite regularly. So I think it's its own sort of way of therapy. You work through it, and
Mm,
for a good while there, probably over a year, I couldn't retell that story without crying like 100% of the
mm.
time, and it still does make me tear up from time to time.
But it's normal.
Yeah.
Did you have the phantom leg thing happen?
Phantom pain.
Some people feel their leg even though it's not there or whatever limb.
Yeah, so you get two phenomena that are very similar. You get phantom limb
Yep,
and phantom
yep.
sensation. So phantom pain
Mm,
and phantom sensation. And just about every amputee will feel phantom sensation. So it's that feeling of like if I'm moving my fingers,
yep, yep,
my brain still feels like I'm doing that, and all the muscles will still fire in my arm if my hand was gone.
yep, yep.
So I can still wiggle my toes in my head, and I can still feel my ankle going up and down, and all those sorts of things. And all the muscles in my residual limb will still fire. Phantom pain, on the other hand, is
Yeah.
a bit different. So that'll be like a very specific, for me anyway, it'll be a very like short, sharp, sort of fleeting thing.
Mm,
And for me, it's got better as the years go on.
yeah.
But for
Did
some
you have
people,
therapy? Sorry, go on.
for some
Mm,
people, it's really
mm.
chronic and can be really debilitating.
They're disabled in various ways. People have different survival things happen. But
When it comes to pain, do you mean, or
yeah.
just with dealing with their
Oh,
disability?
it's everything because one of the things that I've got a good friend that I was caring for a while, and we're still friends. Her car got hit by a speeding truck,
Oh
and
shit!
she went through the windscreen. If it wasn't for the jaws of life that the fire brigade have, they just got a minute at that stage. She would have died, but she survived. She
Wow,
died a few times, and they brought her back.
wow.
But it's yeah, it's difficult. I'll try and get her on the show one day. She's got some stories to tell, but yeah, it's everybody handle it different. I mean, there's different kinds of disability and trauma and
For
partial and
sure.
multiple, and but yeah, I suppose you went to therapy.
Yeah, so I guess I sort of woke up in hospital about, I say woke up, I sort of, I feel like I woke up over about 3 or 4 weeks because I was on so many drugs when I came to, and I was
Mm.
in and out of surgeries. I ended up breaking both femurs, my knee, both tibias, left amputation, broken back, broken
Oh,
ribs. They
God.
said I went through something like 40 units of blood, the equivalent of 20 liters. So basically pumping it into me, and it
Wow.
was coming out my left leg. I got degloved the whole way down, and I didn't even realize at the time. I was just in total shock,
Yeah.
as you could imagine. So about, I think it was 7 surgeries later, I was sort of stabilized around 3 or 4 weeks later, and sort of just started to
Oh,
come back into regular consciousness.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Wow.
from
Oh,
from there, it was a bit of a slow journey. I spent 14 weeks in hospital total,
yeah,
and getting to do therapy, learning to walk again. That was pretty incredible. I remember the first day I got
yeah,
my first prosthetic. That was awesome. For like 14 weeks in, getting to, I think a highlight was getting to go to the toilet standing up again.
yeah,
That was a really proud moment.
yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I get it.
to
Yeah, I
to
get it.
be a bit crass, but yeah.
Yeah, no, 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 no. I get it. I had a spinal injury and I was in bed for a few months,
Yeah.
and uh, I was pretty miserable. But everything was connected with the injury.
Right.
Like what's that?
How long were
I
you
just
out of action for?
I re-injured an old injury. I caught a 44-gallon drum when I was 19. I was going to smash somebody to death, so I caught it, and it did my lower L5. And so I've been managing that for many years, and it pains my friend, I won't live with it. But when I re-injured it, I thought it was over, and I was basically in bed for about 3 months.
Long time to
And
be in bed for.
yeah, I said, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to have to learn to do something with my life because I thought it was going to be forever. And so around about that time, I got a computer, which I was never going to go. In those days, I thought, oh, I'm never going to do that crap. It's a good thing I did. But I made a comeback, but I've got to manage it. It's one of those things I haven't been able to run since I was 19.
Yeah, wow.
And that's how I re-injured it. I said, oh, bugger it. I think I'm fine. I went for a sprint and bang, I was
So
over.
certainly gives you a new appreciation for your body though, having a bit of time out.
Yeah, yeah. Look. Between the ages of 9 or 10 when I started heavy training and swimming. I was unbreakable until that day. And then, like all, even soldiers, you're unbreakable until you got the injury, and then you realise you're going to have
Just how fragile
to.
you can be.
Yeah, we're powerful and fragile at the same time, like one of my old
Indeed.
friends said. And then you learn to work around it, I
You do. I
suppose.
think that's a key takeaway
Yeah,
from my experience with disability and what I've seen. It's just different. You just got to learn to accept that
yeah,
you're not going to do things the same way as everyone, but you can still do them. Just
yeah,
looks a little
yeah,
different.
yeah. Some people find it hard to accept that they rally against the fact that they
Yeah.
used to be able to do better. You just adapt.
Yeah, for sure.
You work with inside of the injury, and but anyway, yeah. And did you have psychological therapy like for trauma?
A little bit. I did 4 sessions with a therapist initially, and he seemed to think I was actually doing quite well. I was obviously
Yeah,
pretty upset and pretty
yeah,
angry for a long
yeah,
time.
yeah.
I
That's
think
understandable.
I think anger really fueled me because we had so much back and
Yeah,
forth with this engineer, and she insisted she knew better than us, and not even anger for what I'd lost, just for my good friend that I'd lost. He was,
yeah.
he was just one of those characters that was so full of life. Two little 3-year-old twins, and
Oh dear.
just someone that was so full of stoke, for lack of a better word. He was just always fired up to do something and encouraging and supportive and high energy. It was just absolutely criminal that this man had been taken from the earth.
Understand.
And
Good die young, they reckon. Sometimes I think maybe it's true.
yeah, it was just that was an absolute tragedy. I was so devastated and angry that he was just gone. He was someone that meant a lot to me and
Um,
has inspired me so much getting through everything. There was that really that anger and that wanting to do it for him, get better and recover my life, sort of really fired me up. And that potent fuel can really pull you out of a dark spot pretty quickly.
yeah, indeed.
I have really vivid memories of just listening to angry rap music and being in the hospital gymnasium just lifting weights.
Good on you. Good on you. You went back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just gets you fired up for a bit.
You've got to get back into life. That's the important thing. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't fall back into depression and stuff.
No, and I think for
Some.
me, climbing was just like such a good vehicle for getting back out there as well, because you can
Do you still
start.
climb?
I still do climb, and I think I went to the climbing gym to try to get back on the wall. Like the second day I got a prosthetic, I left the hospital in a wheelchair for the
Good on you.
for a little
Yeah.
excursion and tried to pull
Yeah.
back on the wall.
Yeah, get back, get back on the horse. They used to say when you
And
come off. That's
it
it.
was
Yeah,
just such a good vehicle. All my friends were really supportive and helped me get out. And even there's a physiotherapist up in the mountains, Lee Cossey, and he was amazing. He said, "Yeah, you can climb again. Just don't fall. Like, you got a good sense of how much you can take before you fall. Just don't do that."
yeah. Work inside of it. Good on you. Good on
But
you.
he was amazing. He just like someone that really understood climbing, was understood the risks and trusted you to make good judgment calls.
Yeah, awesome, awesome.
But yeah, so not so much psychological stuff. The psychologist actually thought that having dealt with stressful situations in climbing might have
Mm,
helped me. learn how to deal with this stressful situation better,
Yeah.
which was an interesting take. You have to sort of
I,
learn to push through some fear in a lot of situations where you're right at the end of your rope and you've got a potentially,
yeah,
nasty fall on your hands. You just got to breathe through it and work the problem.
yeah. Sometimes I think things like that give you an insight into other dimensions, so to speak.
Other dimensions. Do you mean like,
Well, other ways of looking at life.
yeah, sure.
Other dimensions of consciousness. Like meditators give themselves a little bit of pain, but when you've had big pain, it shifts you. I think
Certainly can.
it shifts you. I think ultimately, I think trauma is fuel for if you've got the courage to face it. Trauma's fuel for burning bright. If you know what I mean.
I do.
I don't think you see life like intact people see it
No.
because they think nothing's ever going to happen to them, and hopefully it doesn't. But once you've been smashed one way or the other, I'm only talking from my experience. You've got to adapt. Nobody understands. Some people do. Some people don't want to talk to you. Some people think you're faking it, and on it goes, you know. And so you start looking at things differently.
Hmm.
I don't know if I put the right words to that, but you look at things differently.
Yeah, you definitely learn to appreciate certain things a lot more. And
There's a little guy in America who was born without the bottom half of his body, and he lectures on success. I don't know if you've ever seen him online. He was online a few times. He's a total positive thinker. Totally knocks him over and does things that I haven't done. You know, I go, wow, how do you know?
yeah,
I suppose it's there's more to us than we know until we have to.
for
If you know what I
sure, it
mean?
unleashes a
Yeah,
bit of yourself.
yeah, yeah,
It's
something
been
like that.
it's been really interesting. I've found amputee with that, like such an obvious trauma has happened to me. It almost makes you a bit like a lifeline. A lot of people will want to tell you about the stuff that they've been through because it's such
Yeah,
an
yeah,
obvious
yeah,
it's such
yeah,
an obvious thing that they can latch onto to share to someone else that's been through something
yeah,
traumatic or horrific or whatever their
yeah,
thing may be.
yeah. Because it's relevant.
It's been
Yeah,
really eye opening just to see how many people that it may not be obvious. There's a whole range of horrible things that can happen to us,
yeah,
but
yeah. That's right. That's right.
it's unfortunately more common than you think, I reckon.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody goes through something.
Everyone does.
Life's not easy. Sometimes there's stuff there, and people. The worst thing is people keep it to themselves. I
Mm.
think it's better to let it out and find out that we're more. There's more commonality there than you know. Yeah, people hide it. You know.
Yeah, I think it's Ernest Hemingway has a quote. It was life breaks everyone, and afterwards some of us are strong where we broke.
Yeah,
But only some of us. I really like
yeah,
that little turn of
yeah,
phrase in there.
yeah,
Like not everyone, not everyone
yeah,
pulls through stronger.
yeah. So true. Sometimes people think they're the only one. They've had
Yeah,
a small. Look, everybody reacts to different things differently. You can't judge, but some people have had a trauma and they think something's wrong with them. You know, and it's a small trauma by comparison to other people's trauma. So it's nothing's really small if you let it crush you. And as you say, some of us pull through.
yeah.
But
I mean, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that ever happened to you.
yeah,
It's almost invalidating to try to compare things. It's just, everyone's on their own journey.
yeah, that absolutely. You've said it. All you can do is move forward, go
Yeah.
forward in life. It's not much. There's not much else. So, what was your biggest gain from all this? I know it sounds crazy.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I've learnt so much and got to realize just how much the people around me are important. And I've met a lot of incredible people, I think, through my journey of limb loss and
Mm,
trauma.
yeah,
And I think my biggest gain is for me, it'd have to be just I work as a prosthetics technician now. I work in the industry and I get to turn my personal experience into helping other people every day in a professional context. It's fantastic.
that's cool, isn't it? Isn't it paradoxical that when you've been through something, you get the insights that enabled you to help others that you wouldn't have had before?
It really is. I have
Yeah,
this vivid moment lying in hospital, smacked out of my head on whatever drugs they had me on,
yeah, yeah,
and getting really inspired by the nurses that were in there, thinking just,
mm,
geez, I'd love to do what these guys do, just helping people. And
yeah.
I feel absolutely blessed that I've been able to actually make that happen, and yeah, turn what I went through into something that helps a lot of other people.
And really, that's all we can do, isn't it? We can either mope or turn it into something good for the world. I suppose human history is like that. Evolution's like that.
Definitely.
You know, like you survive the battlefield. You teach people how to fight, even though you might have lost a limb. The old my sensei, he it just occurred to me now as we were talking. I didn't think of the similarity, but he had an ingrown toenail, and because he was diabetic, in his older age,
Hmm.
he got gangrene, and
Wow.
he was in New York then. But the way it goes is they took him into hospital and they said, "Oh, that leg's got to come off. We'll have to wake him up to let him know, and then he's got to sign the release." And the chief doctor said, "No, just take it off." And being an old samurai, he woke up without a leg. His Aikido turned better after the prosthetic. With the prosthetic, he kept training, and he goes, "Oh, bloody awesome." You can't tell he's got a prosthetic. They took it off, and he woke up, and typical old samurai, he looked at it and said, life's going to be interesting. I went back to sleep.
That is very wise of him. Yeah, I mean, and I suppose like to come full circle, a couple of years ago, I got to, or the last couple of years, I've got to actually present at a couple of conferences on prosthetics and orthotics. For me, that's been pretty amazing to have literally gone to these conferences, and I've
Yeah,
actually got to
yeah,
talk to the same medical professionals that saw me in hospital and were the first people that
yeah.
treated me, and start educating them, which has been pretty incredible. I've found to come around and be teaching people that are now my peers that were literally treating me in hospital, that
So you're
recognize me from in the hospital bed.
awesome. Awesome. So you're a specialist now. You've actually got a greater insight. I mean, being there, you've got the insight on how to tweak these prosthetics.
For sure, you get a little bit of insight, and you get to be a bit closer with the people. For the prosthetics industry is littered with people that have started companies and run businesses that are amputees. It's kind of cool like that. There's a huge amount of sort of personal insight that drives the industry forward.
The Aikido principle is you convert all disadvantage to advantage.
Good way to look at things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's life. No, I think nature does it all the
Yeah.
time. Like somebody, I forget the name of the guy. He said people think this and that, but when the waves are crashing on the shore, they're not having an argument. They're accommodating. The sand is accommodating the waves, and the waves accommodating the sand, and eventually
Yeah.
they arrive at a balance. So,
I think there's a similar concept in business of problems are just opportunities and work clothes. Yeah, behind every
yeah,
problem, you just got to do a bit of work, and that's an opportunity. Rock climbing is a pretty interesting hobby, I think. Anyway, for me, it's been something that's been pivotal in my life. I wouldn't be where I am without it. It gives you a great sense of, I think, purpose and drive. It's almost like can be almost like a video game in that it gives you lots of levels to sort of strive towards. There's always something harder, and always, little things you can reset and try again. You can fall off something as many times as you want with a rope and just keep working the same problem until you figure it out. It definitely gives you certain, sort of inadvertently, you find yourself walking into ridiculously far away crags and doing all sorts of things just to try to increase your power to weight ratio and get a bit stronger.
magnificent views, I imagine.
Fantastic views. It gets you to some really incredible places, both in Australia and internationally. Some of my favorite trips have been going overseas to places like Thailand or Italy. It gives you a real sense of purpose to get to a really obscure place. I think one of my favorite things about it, you can travel the world and hang out in these funny little towns or beachside areas that you'd have no reason to go to otherwise, and really get to know a place.